Back on Stadium, it's FT Live. Todd Father, Brzezinski, Jonesy. I'm Braun. Russ Dorsey with us, looking fresh. Russ, happy post-trade deadline season. So, first off, I actually just think that the trade deadline itself was somewhat of a dud compared to most years. Look at the best bat that got moved. It's hard to even come up with the best name. And also, if the Mets didn't decide to sell, it would have been one of the worst trade deadlines since I've been alive that I can recall. No Verlander and Scherzer. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I think for this last week or so, you saw so many trades the days leading up to the actual deadline that you kind of feeling that the deadline itself there wouldn't be a ton of action, and it definitely felt like there were a lot more rumors and reports out there of what could possibly happen or transpire, as opposed to what actually ended up happening. Like, right, there's a lot of Dylan Cease could be on the move. There's a lot of reports out there that were out there that the White Sox are compelled to move anybody but Luis Robert, etc. And then guys don't get moved, and you're like, oh man, we were hoping for something at the buzzer. But I think the fact that we got the two major moves in New York with the Mets, with Verlander and Scherzer both getting moved in the days leading up to it, and obviously Verlander yesterday was the big one. I think that did still add a level of intrigue because you look at that Mets situation, and that's coming into the season. And a lot of people are like, okay, I picked the Mets to go to the postseason. I know a lot of other people did, and to see where it ended up just 3 months later, after the season started, it's pretty surprising.
Don't you think the Mets actually? I think they did good here in this whole situation with the prospects they got back. They talked about, Scherzer said it, talking about, they told me about they're not waiting for next year, 2025, 26. Then it came out. I think Epler came out and said the same thing. What is your case about that? Because I think the prospects they got is a really, really good find and really good for the Mets coming up in the near future.
Absolutely. I would agree with that, Todd. And then you look at, getting Luis Angel Acuna back in return from the Texas Rangers. That's a really big get. That's a guy that's turned himself into a top 100 prospect. You look at the prospects they got back in the trade for Justin Verlander from the Astros. And does it feel good to have to move those two guys? You're talking about two guys that have a combined 6 Cy Young awards. No, you thought you were going to be a team that competed for a World Series. You're not that now. And I've had a GM a long time ago tell me, well, you don't want to waste a crisis. And the Mets were in crisis. And good on them for identifying that and not trying to throw money at what was a bad baseball team. And now you look towards their future. And I think a big part of it for me was, you're still going to hire a president of baseball operations this winter. And whoever that person is going to be, whether it's David Stearns, who a lot of people think is going to go there, or whoever that they decide that Steve Cohen decides to hire, you want that person to feel like, all right, we have clean books. We can go out and make the moves that we want to make, because maybe that person doesn't have the same ideology that Billy Epler has. And then you can go from there for 25, 26, and beyond.
All right, Russ. So that's great and all. But why do you let Billy Epler do the fire sale then? Why do you let him trade for the prospects? Why do you lose what they give away? Almost $100 million? What was it? It was close. It was crazy money they just gave away like we talked about yesterday. They bought prospects, right? And then Billy Epler comes out and says it's not a fire sale, but you trade away Robertson, Verlander, Scherzer, Pham. I mean, the list goes on of the guys. So why do you if you're Steve Cohen, why do you let Billy Epler run the fire sale? And now you're going to bring David Stern in with fresh books. But Billy Epler then tells Max Scherzer, we're not competing until 2026. If you're a Mets fan, and we have a lot of them, aren't you pissed? You're like, well, why don't we not wait and do the fire sale in the offseason and let David Stern get the players he wants instead of Billy Epler picking the players?
I think you capitalize on that value right now. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in season, you have a team that's not going to compete. You have a Tommy Pham, you have Scherzer and Verlander in a seller's market, because I think that was a big thing too, where as the weeks went by, you could tell, like, all right, starting pitching is going to be expensive. You can really capitalize on where you are. To your point about why let Billy Epler be the person that makes those decisions, well, one, somebody has to. Two, him and Steve Cohen had already sat down and talked about what the plans for that front office were going to be, and Billy Epler would be a part of that. And there wasn't this, he's a lame duck. And sometimes you have that where it's like, all right, the guy that makes these moves won't be the GM once we get to the end of the season. That guy gets fired or moves on, and then you hire the next guy. He's going to be a part of that front office from what we know and what Steve Cohen and they've told us. So you have to get started on your plan right now. And then when you decide who your person is going to be to run that front office, then you go into phase 2 of your plan and you say, all right, where are we as a team? How fast do we expect to get back to the postseason? And then because you are Steve Cohen and because you are the richest owner in all of Major League Baseball, if you say, screw this, we're going to throw money at this again, you can do that.